I'm Hillary Clinton.
I'm Nanette Burstein, the filmmaker of the doc-series Hillary.
I didn't grow up thinking about going into politics, but much to my surprise, was elected president of the Young Republicans. I got into law school. I thought I was going to try to make a difference in people's lives.
Well, the series was not meant to be a debunk the various mythology about Secretary Clinton. It was really to take a look at, why she is this polarizing figure throughout history. And in doing so, you can really show the arc of the women's movement over the last 50 years and where we've come from and where we've gone as far as partisan politics.
Well, I don't think I knew when we started that I would be sitting down for 35 hours of interviews, but I really felt like it was a great opportunity to have someone with the track record and talent that Nanette has to try to tell my whole story rather than bits and pieces and totally made up stuff that unfortunately has been all too common. And it started off as a film about the 2016 campaign, but she's the one who, after looking at about 2,000 hours of footage behind the scenes, said, there's a bigger story here. And it is not only about your life, it's about the women's movement that your life coincided with. It's about the situation politically in our country that your life also is part of. And that made a lot of sense to me. So we embarked on what turned out to be an incredibly intense experience. When I talk about what happened in 2016, it's not just to relitigate it. I did that in a book called What Happened. It's to learn the lessons, because I've said publicly many times, I've told most of the candidates on the Democratic side with whom I've talked this year that, look, a lot of what I was up against, they're going to be up against. You've got the whole problem of voter suppression, which we keep fighting because, unfortunately, the other side would rather eliminate people from voting instead of trying to make a case to them. We've got the propaganda that is so prevalent on the internet, that is fed to people, particularly on Facebook, and Facebook does nothing to try to counter it. They allow you to put ads on that are filled with lies. And so how do voters know what to believe? We've got the problem of stolen information, hacked information that is then weaponized. And of course, we have questions about the integrity of our electoral system. So I think past is prologue, and a lot of what I was up against was, unprecedented, but now we have to be ready for it. We know the Russians are back in our electoral system. They are trying to influence the outcome. Even the Trump administration has to admit that. So I'm really trying to sound an alarm to American voters, I don't care what your politics are, that we should pick our leaders, not have a foreign adversary influence who they are. Most of the analysis of the 3 debates I was in with him, concluded that I'd won, and I'd won because I raised questions. I was able to rebut a lot of what he said, but his sort of bullying presence, his insulting rhetoric, does appeal to a certain percentage of voters. So I think whoever debates him, if he debates, and I think it's going to be interesting to see whether he will debate whoever our nominee is, but if he debates, you've got to be constantly telling the American people what you want to do, but also, not letting him get away with his outrageous lies and his very vicious rhetoric, because you want to show you can stand up to him and represent our country in a way that will demonstrate who we are and what we believe. Well, I think that voters are going to be looking for someone who presents an alternative to Trump, not only his policies like giant tax cuts for corporations and trying to do away with health care coverage for people who have pre-existing conditions and all the rest that he does, but also who respects our institutions and the rule of law, understands that we're going to have a lot of repair work to do after 4 years of this president. So I just want the nominee who is going to win the Electoral College, because obviously I know very well you can win 3 million more votes and not be inaugurated. And that's what voters are trying to decide. And I'm going to continue to speak out about the threat that Trump poses to our nation and try to convince voters to take their vote very seriously. Well, I think the coronavirus threat illustrates what many of us have feared for a long time. When you do, as Trump does, call anything that is possibly inconvenient for him a hoax, when you undermine science, evidence, facts, truth, when you rid the government of all but those who are intensely loyal to you and your particular future, and therefore you lose experts who are prepared to deal with everything from natural disasters to disease, you're going to have some problems. And I think that's what we've been seeing. And I think with the coronavirus, thankfully, there are still people in our government who have a lot of expertise, who have not been driven out. But he cut the budgets of important organizations like the Centers for Disease Control that used to keep a vigilant watch on what was happening in other countries so that we would be prepared. And right now, we're playing catch-up. We're playing catch-up on testing kits. We're playing catch-up on the availability of adequate hospital treatment for people who do get very sick. So I can only hope that at the state and local level, working with the experts who are still in our government, that we can deal with this disease threat in a sensible, smart way and try to limit what it causes in our nation.
Well, I thought the film was great. I saw it in a theater early on. And, I mean, Trump says a lot of nutty things, so.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep up with the comments he makes, and I think that's part of his strategy. Let's be really clear here. If you are barraged on a daily basis by his public statements, by his tweets, by his actions, you get exhausted. And that is what he wants us to be. He wants us all to just basically get exhausted and discouraged and think that what he's doing and saying is normal. It is not. I've had political and policy differences with lots and lots of Republicans, but I never thought any one of them was trying to undermine our government, trying to make money from, the position that they held, going after people they perceived as enemies because they didn't agree with them or they told the truth to Congress. So this is a different and quite worrisome time, and I hope that American voters, regardless of your political affiliation, I understand why you'd find him entertaining, outrageous, just wow, can't believe he said this. But when it comes to something like the coronavirus, you actually want people who know how to protect you and your family. And so I hope that that's what people think about when they vote this year.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out these other videos from USA Today to stay up to date with all the latest news.